Hey, Carl.
Hi, David.
Is Fireflies. Software is always funny. Like, you're supposed to join meetings. Maybe I didn't tell it to join this one. It's not even on this calendar.
Mhm.
18th today. Nothing in this week is even on the calendar. All right. How do I invite Fred? Sorry. Tool, right?
Yeah, that's
Ah,
right.
and it's all still experimental. So, like, trying to figure out how I want to do these things and how I want to use the tools.
Mhm.
So how is your Monday going?
It's pretty good, pretty quiet. It's like a holiday in Canada, so less people around in general. The city is much quieter. Yeah. How about your Monday?
Uh, not bad. I did a podcast call at 1 o'clock, and then I've got a call that was supposed to happen with a potential lead,
Mm.
like not last Friday, week before, but then he was like, "Oh, sorry, it wasn't on my calendar at all." And I'm like,
Mm.
"How do calendar invites work? You scheduled it."
Yeah.
But I will give him one freebie. We'll see what happens.
Mhm, mhm.
And other than that, the morning was all fixing air conditioning. So
Okay.
yeah. Um, and it's interesting. So the open coffees so far, I mean, I don't really advertise them. The very first one I didn't advertise at all,
Mhm.
and someone showed up. So
Nice.
that was awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
like I put it on the website. That was all I did was put it on my website.
Wow.
So it's and then last week, because this is number three. So last
Mm.
week a buddy of mine showed up.
Mhm.
We worked together on a project a couple of years ago, and he's actually a friend of a friend. So
Mm. Mhm.
um, oh, we've got two people. Cool.
Hey, how's it
Lucas,
going?
welcome.
Hey,
Hi, Lucas.
wow, it's a pretty narrow circle.
Well, it's a small group. I mean, this is my third one of these, so I'm not marketing it very heavily. I think I've got the LinkedIn invite or LinkedIn event set up, and it showed up on the website, and I've talked about it a couple of places. But so I expect small crowd to no crowd, so I'm happy to have two people. This is awesome. Uh,
No worries, it's great. I think it's amazing. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that I have found your website. So yeah.
well, what do you find interesting about it?
Well, I think it's great that you offer like a number of free and paid stuff there. So I think it's very organized, and you clearly say what you offer for free, what you offer for paid paid offers. So it's great to see it.
I appreciate that. If you guys will give me a second, I I especially now if we have three people showing up. Travis, welcome. It's a small group. We don't know what we're doing yet. I'm still experimenting. So, but I'm trying to get my AI recorder to actually do the recording work, and it's not here, and I don't know why.
Mm.
I think it's the Zoom is recording.
Zoom
Well,
is recording,
yeah.
but all I get out of it is an audio transcript that doesn't have names on it. So Fireflies
Oh, I
captured
see.
names. So then I have names on my transcripts. But why Fireflies has decided that it's not working today, I don't know. And it's kicking my butt. Um, there's supposed to be an invite address that I could, because it's not showing up in my schedule, so it doesn't know to join.
Hmm.
And there's a way I'm supposed to be able to add it manually, and I can't find the email address that I'm supposed to use to invite it.
No
Oh,
worries. So maybe we'll do a round of introductions first. I mean, in the meantime, and in the background, you'd figure out the fireflies. How about that?
there it is, Fred. at Firefly.ai. Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Let's do a round of introductions. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I'll start as a scapegoat of this intro round. So my name is Lukas. I have 15 years of experience in software. The last 5 years I spent as a startup CTO and fractional CTO. One nice thing is that I have worked for Google in California, hence my background. I spent 3 years in Silicon Valley. It was an amazing career experience, so I was very happy to be there. And I moved back to Europe for personal reasons after that. I still have many friends who stay there in Silicon Valley and bought houses and still stay at Google. So I'm well connected there. Yeah. Currently, I'm looking for new clients and reaching out to people in the US and Switzerland. I conducted a workshop in UK for a $1 billion company. So it's like trying various things and trying to find a good strategy for finding new clients. So happy to share experience and happy to hear your insights. And maybe get inspired by your approach. Thanks.
Awesome. Sam, you want to intros?
Sure. My name's Sam Taggart. I've been doing software for probably close to 20 years, trying to transition more into fractional CTO type work. I have one client. I tried to sell him on fractional CTO stuff, but basically what I'm doing is probably more technical coaching, but that's cool. It's fun. Yeah. That's
Awesome.
what I'm at.
Travis.
I'm Travis. I don't really know what my intro is anymore. I've been out of the game for a few years. I did a lot of technology startups. I changed my LinkedIn profile to be a 6x failed founder, proving that startups aren't that hard. That's what I'm doing. So my last startup, we went through NFX in Palo Alto and then raised around and immediately moved to Boulder. Spent 2 years on that idea. Then my co-founder kicked me out and I was like, I don't ever want to do a startup ever again. So I've been resisting doing anything for the last 5 or 6 years. And then my 14-year-old son is kind of at the age where I try and push him in a direction. And so we're doing what I'm calling a venture studio. Mostly because I have a lot of ideas and I want to build stuff and I like building stuff quickly. I'm not going to go and raise a fund. And so I am just joining because I saw David's post and I like to try and stay connected even though I've kind of checked out. But maybe one day I'll like want to get a job again, but it's addicting when you don't have to work anymore.
Right? Did I just see a Winter Park, Florida shirt?
This is Winter Park, Colorado.
Okay.
Which is ironic because I was at a grocery store wearing this shirt in Florida. I live in Central Florida now, and the guy was like, "Oh, Winter Park, it has a really good downtown." And I'm thinking Winter Park, Colorado, and I'm like, "It doesn't have a nice downtown." And he was thinking Winter Park, Florida, which is just 20 miles away or 50 miles away. So.
Yeah.
Yes. I by the way, I wear all the same clothes for the last 15 years. They're all swag from whatever networking events like we all do. And my wife's getting tired of it. And most of them are like, because it's been 6 years since I was like been doing any kind of startup. I haven't been able to collect many. So I think maybe that's going to be the driver. Like I need a new wardrobe. So I'm going to go get another CTO job just to get some more swag.
Awesome. I'm 20 miles from Winter Park to the northeast. So.
The north. Okay. Wait, from Florida or
from Florida? Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I was like 20 miles northeast of Winter Park. There's an awful lot of nothing in Colorado,
right?
Just barren wasteland out there.
So, Karl, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, Karl. I guess really close to 20 years in tech or like working, and started out. Did a lot of video games, worked on PC games, console games, mobile games. then went into e-commerce for a little while, then started a game startup company, did that for a little while, and then found myself in fintech, and then I found myself looking for work and saw this fractional thing and thought it was interesting as like I guess maybe like intermediate step, because all the roles I saw I wasn't interested in, and then as I got into it more, I got actually excited about it. But now I'm in kind of like this lull. So at first it was exciting. It seemed clear at the time what I could offer and what I could do. And within my network, I got a few opportunities. And at the same time, reading like from folks like Jonathan Stark about like, watch out, you have your network for this amount of time. You need to like build pipeline outside of that. And then the network ones sort of like, I don't know, petered out or kept like, I've been able to keep the lights on for a while, but I'm at the stage now where I have set up kill criteria where I seriously need to find a full-time job at a certain point, or turn around my fractional stuff. And I think some of the turnaround is getting more clear about what exactly or who exactly I want to help and how I want to help them. So yeah, David, some of your recent stuff has been helpful with that. And your one defining consultant was like the most comprehensive I've ever read. That was super helpful. And I think I need to reread it. It's pretty long, but
it's my big pet peeve, right? Whenever somebody says, I'm a consultant, I was a consultant, I worked for a consultancy, I always try to push back and say, what did you do? And as I pointed out, most of them I end up being employees of an agency, of a firm, whatever, right? So then it was like, okay, I talk about this a lot, I bitch about it a lot. Let me see if I can break it down into something that explains what these differences are, because this is the consulting industry, right? There's no argument there. But like, what makes that up? So, well, welcome aboard, everybody. And I'm David Raistrick, and I'm sure all of you have some reason to already have some clue who I am. Certainly Sam, I know, and Karl, I know through Ditcherville, and Travis, I don't think we know each other any place, but your name seems familiar for some reason. So, okay, cool. And Sam, I need to have a lab view conversation one of these days, actually really soon.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. Cool. I'm happy. Let's talk.
Because I need to have a lab view conversation that is not involving the family business, because the family business is lab view.
Oh, really? Wow, there you go.
So let's catch up outside of this. Yeah, so what's on everyone's mind? Obviously, client acquisition is probably the biggest thing. Positioning, I think, is heavily involved in that, right? How you represent yourself, how you describe yourself, affects that. So
can I say I really liked you had something a while ago about you don't have to do everything, and I think that's also something I'm kind of, because like if you want to be a CTO, there's a whole lot involved in that, and some of that stuff like doesn't sound very appealing to me, for sure.
Right. Same here. In fact, I just updated my own website to say fractional CTO. I took the plunge, even though for the last 5 years, I've argued that I've always said I'm not a fractional CTO, I'm not a CTO, blah blah blah. And in much reflection, especially in this reflection of like trying to think about how do I build a coaching business, what is my expertise, how does that align to these things, I realized that I've been a startup founder, I've been a startup CTO, I've been a growth stage company CTO, but I never had the title. And that's part of it, because the roles that we take on are what really make the CTO. And it's not about the title, it's what we're doing and some of the things that we're doing and where we're engaging in that company at that moment. So
yeah, kind of hung up on the title for a while though, because I wanted to tell people I want to do this fractional CTO stuff, but without having a name to put to it, it's hard to explain exactly like, right? Because I feel like people have this idea in their head of like, although I guess, I don't know, maybe people like have varying ideas of what CTO actually means too.
it very much is. Yes.
Yeah. You are muted, Lucas.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry for disappearing for a second. I had a neighbor knocking to the door, so I needed to open and give her a parcel from a courier. So as for CTOs, I noticed that people mean various things, and what is a bit disappointing is when I get approached by startups, they say, "Oh, we need a CTO," but actually, what they really mean is a founding engineer coder working for stock options without salary, which is definitely not I would like to do if I want to earn money out of the fractional CTO role.
And a
So
lot of times they're not asking for a co-founder. They just want you to come in and work for equity. And it's like, no, if I'm working for equity only, that's a co-founder.
yeah. But even if it's like a almost co-founder or a co-founder role, if my goal is to earn money out of that right now, well, I need a salary rather than equity. So early stage startups is probably not a good idea unless they are funded by a successful businessman, which happened to me. So by the way, I'm happy to share my experiences. Not sure if it's the right time, but I'm happy to share what kind of fractional CTO roles I had in the past.
Cool. I think we have someone else coming. Awesome. The working with early stage startups, you're right. I mean, you really can't be building a business and then only make equity, right? Because you're not an investor. You're not in the business of being an investor. But those aren't the cash-starved startups that we classically talk about are not the only types of startups. They're not the only type of early stage companies. There are well-funded ones, there are overfunded ones, and there are those where the people funding them are being respectful of the money and recognize that talent is not cheap, experience is not cheap, and figuring out a way to balance that. So it's not impossible to be a paid. I mean, it's really not, because most people I run into in the fractional space do target startups, early stage, right? Maybe just past 0 to 1, or maybe always in that coming from 0 to 0.5 or whatever, but they're in that space. They're not exclusive. It's not everyone, but a lot of people do that, and they're able to make money at it. So you don't have, if they say equity only, you can say, thank you, goodbye. Let's talk later. Russ, welcome.
Yeah.
This is very informal. We did this is number 3, so I'm still learning how we're going to run these, how we're going to do it, how many people are showing up. If you wanted to give us a quick introduction, it would be great.
Hey guys, I'm Russ Waddell. I am working as a nearly exclusive contractor for a company that I used to work for full time. They asked me to come back as a full-time employee several times. I told them a very large number, and they said, well, we couldn't possibly pay you that. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to have to get that money from other contracts that I get while I work from you. And so I'm not fractional, but I'm exploring whether I should be calling myself fractional.
Just because you've only got one client doesn't mean you're not fractional.
I'm only 18 months into self-employment, so I also feel like I'm making it up as I go along, and so far so good, and I'm trying not to overthink it, but this is a working on the business type of thing to stop in by.
Yeah, awesome. Sam, you were shaking
I was
your head.
just gonna say that doesn't ever go away.
I mean, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
9 years, right? That for me. So, all right. So longest working for yourself business here. Travis, is that you?
Well, I did 0 to 1 startups for like 10 years before I kind of retired. So yeah, and almost all of them were bootstrapped, no money, just me. So I raised friends and family on one of them, and then we raised a lot for the last one I did, which was VC, which was a good rodeo to go down. Highly recommend against doing that, but that's a different conversation. So yeah, like when you're talking about CTOs in a early stage startup environment, I know exactly what you need there. And like maybe my honest confusion, because I've never spent any time in larger organizations, always small. Like CTO is very much hands-on. Maybe we have 1 or 2 other engineers, and my challenge when we were raising money was like I had to pretend like I wanted to build a big business and like build a big team and like manage a bunch of people, but I have zero desire to do any of that stuff. So like CTO in mid stage or later stage companies is a very different persona than early stage. And then maybe my one thing on like the funding piece, the way that I would approach it is I would exclusively look at Crunchbase and just find companies just raised around who don't have a technical co-founder. Those are the kind of CTO gigs I think would probably work the best for this fractional because they have money and they have something that some investor that wrote them a check thinks they are doing something right. It's the guys that like haven't raised money that are going to be hard to get a paycheck from.
So just curious, do you say there are startups which raised money but don't have technical co-founder? Is it even possible? Do the investors accept such deals in such companies? Really?
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's also like defining like tech startup and then like startup that happens to use tech. Like tech enabled companies is what I kind of talk like. So like they don't actually need a full-time CTO, but it is useful to have a fractional CTO. like that's like the right fit for them. At least that's the theory I've had for a while. And so, yeah, there's definitely like companies that there are startups that are non-tech startups that raise money. And I think there's this in between. So if it's like true, like hard tech, I do agree. And I've heard feedback from folks in Silicon Valley that are like, if you're trying to do like super tech startup, you will not be able to raise money without a tech co-founder. Like that's just a non-starter. But I think there is a whole bunch of other ones that have found their way through. I briefly worked for one or with one that was through a venture studio, and they actually paired them with an internal fractional CTO, and apparently it didn't work out or something. But then they were still like looking for that. And there are a few folks like there was another one I spoke to a few years ago, and yeah, they definitely raised a bunch of money on an idea and had like built prototypes and stuff with outsourced teams. But then when it came to like that next phase, they were looking for a fractional CTO, but they didn't have one yet, and they had money. So it does exist. I do agree that I actually have not done the Crunchbase approach yet, so maybe that's worth exploring. But yeah, they do exist. I just don't know how much or how easy it is to.
Yep. And of course, anytime you see somebody that's now a former CTO means somebody doesn't have a CTO. And I have found a lot of success in that space, not intentionally, not like stalking people who just said, I'm looking for a new CTO job and going after their old job, but coming into companies who have had a CTO, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 over their career, over the years of the business, and are in between for all the reasons. And a lot of times that's a good place to come in and bring a piece of that role, even though they might be, because they're often not, they're looking to hire, right? But they often don't really know why the CTO didn't work out, whether they left or they were fired. The organization often doesn't really have a good understanding of that. So coming in and helping them recognize that, helping to come in and understand the team and be that sort of go-between that understands it, not necessarily being the interim CTO, which is a possibility, but bringing some fraction where you're going to apply yourself to it and helping them just kind of through that path of getting to the next. Because a lot of times in all fractional CTO roles, really all fractional roles, part of the other end of that is bringing that if they've grown, if they're growing, then is getting them to the point where they're going to hire their full-time employee, right? Now they need that full-time role. You've gotten them past that and helping them understand what that is, because as we said earlier, the CTO role is so varied, and make sure they hire someone that's appropriate to their stage. I think a lot of times that's what happens, what failure happens in the CTO role is that you hire somebody from, a 500-person engineering org into a 5-person engineering org. And it's possible that person has more diverse experience, but it's also possible they don't. You look at their career and they grew up in large organizations. They'd have no idea what to do in a 5-10-person company. And they tend to bring lots of things that are the wrong stage for that business. Eventually you'll get there. So
Or not if
Or
you don't
not.
grow enough.
the 99% says they're not going to, but from our perspective, because we're not founders, we can look at it as, okay, we're going to pretend you're going to get there. We will plan, we will support you, we will start building toward it. We will help you recognize the signs of you are or are not, and help you just stay the course for where you need to be. Right? We don't have to say, we hope you're here in 10 years. I mean, we do. We always hope our clients are going to be around, but reality is most of them won't. Hell, most of the businesses I've worked for in my entire life aren't around. One project I know of, I got work pulled in on, literally caused the company to go bankrupt.
I was just gonna chime in, like, so I apologize for not really spending much time kind of thinking about the role of a fractional CTO. But like the non-standard placeit is very apparent. So like obviously we're all familiar with like the idea of like the vibe coding thing where it's like you can build an MVP and like one prompt kind of stuff. But as anybody who's written software before or tried to do it, it'll generate something, but it's complete garbage, and it requires somebody who has some engineering expertise to like go in and actually build a production ready app. So like that would be the genesis of the thought that I'm about to say, which is like I was at a networking event and met a lady that was running like a residential roofing company. And so I've seen a bunch on YouTube where it's like, oh, you can build like an innate agent workflow for like all this other stuff. And like, oh, that's bullshit. Like it doesn't actually work in the real world, but you get YouTube views. But like these non-technical, like small businesses know it's out there, know it's available, and are starting to play with it. The lady was like using ChatGPT. So she's like kind of touching it, but she's not a technical person. And I would say, if I was to put my fractional CTO hat on, that's the type of client that would crush, because she's probably making $100,000 a month revenue in this just small residential roofing business, doesn't understand technology at all, is probably paying $3,000 a month for just a bunch of different, because she just subscribes to all the software. And so if somebody could come in that environment and put together a technology stack that works for her, I think that would be like a pretty interesting way to pitch the fractional CTO. Now, again, I just preface that with my previous comment. Like, I think of CTO like hands-on, not building teams, and she doesn't need a team of engineers and developers. So if everybody's thinking of like fractional CTOs, like we're going to help an organization build an engineering
part of it, but not all of it.
Organization. Yeah. So I'm full of ideas on like non-traditional places to go and get customers. I just wanted to throw that one out there.
Love it. I, myself, and I know we are coming up on time. I do not have anything on the other side of this. This was 30 minutes to see what happens. You guys are welcome to stay or drop as you need to. So for myself, I've generally positioned myself as an advisor, because I want to stay away from getting into hands-on. I want to stay away from managing teams, growing teams. I don't mind helping them figure out how to grow a team, right? Helping them figure out what team alignment and all the things. But it's really like, I don't want to be saddled with that responsibility. I hate it, right? This is, but so positioning myself in that advisor space has meant that mostly people aren't trying to come to me for that type of work. But I think advisors, even the contractor side of things, all of this is part of the fractional life. It's not, because it is not all one thing. I actually, when I'm talking to people and when I'm dealing with, because I use LLMs in my daily workflows, and a lot of times it always kind of pushes back to that, like the fractional is a leader, the fractional is an executive, the fractional comes in and owns things and just does it for less time. And I'm like, that's not true at all. As I talk to, for the past couple of years, talking to regular people who are working in this space, the reality is it's across the board. It's okay to say, hey, I'm a contractor and I want to take on other things. If you're working for multiple clients, that's just as fractional as anyone else, right? Even if you stay focused and you're a staff engineer, or, a senior engineer or a data engineer or anything else, the hard part of this is the business, right? Being that, okay, I'm building a business. I'm trying to figure out how to manage pricing and contracts and all of that. And that's what makes all of this common amongst each other, right? It's not about the thing we do. It's about figuring out how to run our business.
David, how do you-
may I?
how-
Oh, go ahead, Travis. Go ahead.
I was going to be smart. I was going to be like, all right, David, that's why we're here. Tell us all the answers. We're waiting for it.
Ask the questions.
I
Russ, you have the-
have a more specific question than that. I've heard the same thing from a couple of other people about, be an advisor, don't be a consultant. Consultant has a specific expectation associated with it. And it was eerie how similar some of the stuff in your newsletter recently was to what I'd already heard from somebody else. But how do you avoid the skepticism or the distrust of someone as an advisor? For every advisor that a CEO loves, there's 10 people on staff who are like, I can't believe the CEO is spending this money on this bullshit advisor. Open-ended question. I guess I don't think I don't have enough credibility to be that advisor yet, but
That's your imposter syndrome.
I'm afraid of being that guy.
Imposter syndrome. Think about it, right? You know more than someone else, and that's all you need. Even if it's only that you focus more on something than someone else, that's what you need, right? So keep that in mind. There's always someone that we can help. I talk to juniors who are like, I'm just starting out, and you talk to them, you start talking through their background, and they realize that, wait, there's this thing. That's a valuable piece. Can I find people that need that but don't have it or don't have the time to spend on it, right? Then they have a space that they can focus on. But the other side of that I was going to talk about, why did I just lose track? That was the second thing you said. What was the first thing you said?
Advisors, not consultants.
Yes. The advisors and coaches that executives spend money on that are completely unhelpful. I don't know if you've watched The Residence yet. It was awesome. There's some perfect examples of such a consultant in there who comes in and says, "Oh, we should do all these stupid things," but I don't worry about it. I've actually never even thought about it, despite the fact that I have worked in companies where we had those people come in and, you play the games and they put you in rooms and blah, 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 right? And you're like, we got to do trust exercises, because I'm not doing any of that. So I'm not worried about it. I'm coming in to help individuals succeed with whatever it is that we're trying to do. It's, to me, it's never to me about the business. I'm here to make sure that the teams and the people are able to do what they need to do to succeed. And I'm not doing that as a coach. I'm not doing that as a mentor, right? But I am doing that because part of the distinctions to me, advisor, coach, mentor, are, coaches take you through a process. You're going from A to B or A to Z. There is a process that you need to go through. There's a goal on the other end of it. Mentorship is, and this was in that coaching in that consulting breakdown, but mentorship is more you and me working together. We're kind of in the same space. We're working through things together, right? Mentorship is peer to peer, is very much we work with and learn from each other. And the advisor is similar, but it's very much about wherever we need to go, whatever we need to do to meet. Right? This is my take on it, right? When we're working with an advisory client, we are helping them through whatever's going on now. It's not necessarily structured. It's not necessarily goal driven. There might sometimes be structure and goal, but it's also very much not it's not a trainer, right? It's not whatever you want to call a lifestyle coach.
Guru.
Right, thank you, guru. Exactly. I've forgotten about guru. Actually, I worked with a really great guru at a company at Jump TV years ago. They brought some guy in, and he came in and he did all the things, and he did on pony shows with all the teams. And you know what was interesting is everyone got something out of it, even though it was kind of on the surface useless. But so sometimes they work, but I don't know. I guess I don't worry about the problems, the appearance, because I guess one of the things is I come in and I talk to everyone I can, and I start to build trust, and they start to recognize, because I am an expert in this, right? That's not just my self-confidence speaking, because I don't have any. That is my experience speaking, right? That I can come in and I can talk to these people, and we can get on the same level. I can, whether I'm talking to someone in sales or product or support or engineering, and we can get on the same page and start to talk about the problems. As long as we talk about the problems and we talk about solutions and the things they think about, then we start to build trust. And if I get trust across a handful of people in an organization, I can help whatever leader I'm working with or whatever team I'm working with, I can help them now I can be the bridge of trust that they need into the rest of the organization. So that's kind of the approach I take in my advisory stuff, which is why I like advisory. So
I mean, I was having lunch with a guy who's a distributor for industrial equipment, and I don't know him very well, and it was apparent at some point during the lunch that, you know, I was saying something about where the market was going, or a type of product or something like this, and he was intently paying attention to what I was saying, even though to me, like, it was just another set of words. And like, to me, this was all I'm doing is sharing my own background on this topic. But I could tell that this was valuable to him because he simply does not have that perspective, or hasn't been through this thing or that thing, or is looking for someone else to confirm his point of view. Like, he's in executive mode, scooping up all the perspectives and the information that he can, so that he can put it into the, you know, mental machinery and use that later. And the only thing that I did that was valuable was just sort of cut to the chase and say what I knew. And that was all I was looking for. So the idea that I can convert stuff that I already know and have done into dollars, and I'm not doing it for the sake of, you know, positioning, or for the sake of identity, or for the sake of like establishing a role or anything. I'm literally just doing knowledge transfer from me to you. That's the first piece, is I know a thing, you didn't know it. And the second piece is speed it up. So when I was an employee, I never understood that concept about like pulling forward decision making. But now it's like, if this guy had this one lunch conversation and he can now make a decision that would have been 3 months later, because he would have assigned an engineer to go work on it, and the engineer would have come back multiple times with reports. If instead he can say, well, Russ did all these things. I like what Russ says. He's been there. He's been in the trenches. Therefore, I'm not going to do this 12 weeks from now. I'm going to do it right now. That's worth money to him, right? I mean, he hasn't paid me yet. I haven't done any work for him, but that's the type of thing that I'm trying. So I want to be having those lunches every day. You know what I mean? Or having those conversations every day.
Yep. Awesome. That's a good plan. I mean, that's the thing you want to do. Now you have to figure out how to position it, how to sell it, how to find people to do it, right? That's the other half of this business. You're good. You already recognize, you see it. You're good at that, at the thing you do.
I just got lucky, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's about what it takes. Thanks, Karl. I will be honest, a lot of this is luck, right? But it's also about putting yourself in the right place for luck to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it was a long process to be having dinner with the owner of an industrial distributor in the first place, and to understand that I might have something that was valuable to him. I mean, that was years in the making, and all I'm looking for to cash out of it is, you know, an honest living. I'm not trying to get rich off of this.
Right. And I mean, there's a lot that we do that's part of our business development, right? Whether it's a marketing effort or a market research effort, you know, having conversations like that, giving the information away. I mean, I'm giving it away here, right? The approach I like to take is, if I give it away, people see that I'm expert and I'm valuable, right? And that they can then make their own judgments about how that applies to them and if I can help them. And so in this case, you've had a conversation, you've built trust with somebody that you didn't previously know, you managed to get in there and have the conversation. Now he's like, I'm thinking about the things that Russ said. And if this is where like Jonathan Stark's Rolodex moments and your laser focused positioning start to come in, is that if you say, I help whatever market he's in, right? Whatever markets you say, I help that market segment with blah, with software design decisions. I mean, just keeping it simple. Then next time he's talking to somebody in that industry, he's going, I know somebody that focuses on our industry, the thing that we do. And because as business owners, we tend to end up talking to people like we are here who are in a similar space, because we can kind of talk about that. And we also recognize that we're not always in competition. Two people doing the same, two roofers, two people running roofing businesses can be in business in the same town, and they're still not competition because there's room for all of them. Right. And so they will network and talk and sit and have dinner and compare notes about the industry and the business and say, oh, hey, what about that neighborhood or whatever. And so if you can talk to someone in your in your now target industry and say, I'm helping people in this industry, he can then mention you to other people.
There's a good point there, because I don't have a laser focused positioning statement, and the issue is not so much me getting a conversation directly. That's like, I go to my phone, I call the people I know, I go to meetings where they are, and I go to bars where they hang out, and then they show up, right? But like your point about this guy doesn't have the language to pass my name on to the next person, because I don't have a laser focused positioning statement. So like he can't say, oh, you need to talk to Russ. He's the authority in digital transformation for industrial companies. Like he can't say that, and he has to make it up and like he's not going to go out on a limb and say, you'd love this guy Russ. Oh, well, what does Russ do? He helped us with this one thing.
With some tech stuff. I don't really know.
Yeah. He's great with computer.
Right. And this is hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? Coming up with the thing that you say that you do and how it aligns with somebody's specific problems and the expensive problems is hard. That's why nobody's doing it. But when you do it, when you get it so it works for you, that is insanely valuable, because then he talking to somebody and they're like, I wish I had somebody that would help me with computer. And you're like,
yeah.
Us.
Yeah.
He helps people with computer.
Yeah, Russ, may I share a story? How I got a client with whom I've been working for 5 years, on and off, both full time and part time. So basically, my friend from high school came back after being abroad for like 5 years, and he organized a birthday party. So I went with my girlfriend. I was terribly late. Almost everybody was out. And there was one girl who was sitting alone somewhere in the kitchen rather than with the whole crowd. So, well, I thought it's unfair that she's alone. So we started talking with her. And probably she liked us because she invited us to her birthday party in a club like 2 weeks later. We showed up. There was 100 people in this bar, and she came to us and said, "Oh, here is Bartek, and Bart wants to write some website. You're good with computers. Maybe you should you two should talk." And basically, well, I thought, oh gosh, I'm not going to write any sort of website, because I'm a ex-Google software engineer. I want to do big projects rather than write some HTML website. But I started talking with this guy just to be polite, and it turned out that what he wants to do is, he's an ex-Kearney consultant. He's been working for 8 years in Dubai, 2 years in New York, and now he has started his own HR expert network company, and he wants to build a recruiting platform with AI modules, and it's going to be a $1 million product.
Because he's talking to someone outside of the industry. He says, I need to build a website.
Yeah. So when I heard he wants the website, I thought HTML simple website, I'm not gonna do it. But actually, in her language, it meant something with computers, and she knew that I'm good with computers. So in this, club birthday party setting, it was enough to connect us just in case, right? It was low risk, and she just wanted us to hang out and maybe to make some valuable connections.
Yep. And
so it's good to talk with people. Yeah.
One of the examples Jonathan Stark used is what years ago was if you build websites for horse trainers, all you have to do is build websites for horse trainers, and you say, in fact, somebody in this room will know somebody that runs a horse training business. Chances are, right? So you're like, oh, hey, I know that they need a website. I really hate their website. You're like, let me recommend that David talks to this guy because I hate their website and I wish they had a better website because I'm in the industry and I sure hate when I look at these old things. Whatever it is. But you said horse trainer. This is very specific, right? And the problem you solve for them now, if it's I help them build training facilities, scheduling, blah, blah, blah. If I help horse trainers solve this problem, then that's even better. But they're still going to go horse trainer, or they're going to go scheduling, facility scheduling. Then either of those things are going to trigger something in their mind. And, if you said, oh, I help build scheduling applications for horse trainers, and you're like, oh, hey, well, maybe you would help my friend who's running a pickleball court and has scheduling problems.
Cool. So if you don't mind me asking, how did you find your clients? I mean, for those of you who have worked as a fractional CTO, probably it's mostly Sam maybe and Karl.
I think Karl had to drop.
Karl is not anymore.
Yeah, he had dropped.
Sorry.
Yeah, for me, mostly word of mouth. Although the one that I have now actually found me, so I made a post on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, it's it's the end of the year. I've got some openings for next year," and he reached out to me. So that was one of those things that I just did that on a whim. I'm like, "Hey, you know what? Why not throw this out there?" And and it worked.
But you posted a post saying, "Oh, I have some openings," right?
Yep. That was it.
Okay, well, it's good to know that you posted it. I'm a bit ashamed to post that I have some openings because I'm thinking, well,
it works.
Well, never say that you're like completely bored or like don't be like, oh my God, I've got so much. Be like, hey, I had a client that we just wrapped up a project. I've got a new one coming. I've got some time before the next one starts. If you phrase it like that, then you want to make it sound like you're busy, right? Because the easiest way to get work is to be really busy.
Right.
Because when you're not, then you get desperate and people can smell that.
I haven't had an opening for a customer in 6 months, but I've got an opening in the schedule. Let's see if anybody wants to drop in, whatever.
Yeah. Those type
You can phrase it for exclusivity, but at the end of the day, a simple, I'm available and I help do this, right?
A good time to do that is at the end of the year. Be like, hey, I'm putting together my schedule for the next year, and I noticed I've got some holes in it. If you want something done, let me know, and we'll talk about it. That's easy.
Yep. For me, I think half of my clients came from, in one way or the other, applying for jobs, sending my resume in for positions that they had open. Mind you, my space is my targeted niche was DevOps and all the things that happen between running on local and getting into production, right? And being stable in production. So companies who are hiring DevOps people are right targets because they're hiring for some reason or the other. And so sending my resume, having a conversation, this is primarily driven from looking for contracting work, right? And trying to convert somebody who's looking for a full-time engineer into a contract. But then I eventually started pivoting those to advisory roles. And so some of them came from those conversations, either immediately or later. One of those later conversations, right? They'd gone through the whole process. We both rejected each other. I rejected them on price. They rejected me on price. And year later, I posted that on LinkedIn and said, hey, if anybody has, I have an opening in my schedule. And she reached out and said, we just fired our CTO and we really need somebody to help us through this. Right. And
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot of times it's just luck and timing. So don't be afraid to say, now's the time. I'll send something now. And the others were from networking, right? Somebody I'd worked with on another project. They were the CISO on that project. We worked well together. I reached out to them afterwards. They recommended me to somebody that they thought was probably kind of a peer networking, and turns out they were really starting a dev studio, and so that meant they had clients that needed stuff, and we talked a bunch. We just kind of got it on a regular schedule, talked every couple of months, and he kept an eye out for an opportunity where I would fit in, right? And I've worked on 4 projects with them. And then
Nice.
also just things people post stuff on Rands, so responding to that.
Mine is pretty Rolodex based or word of mouth based as well. It's basically, I had one job that involves a lot of outreach into a niche industry. I started posting a lot on LinkedIn in anticipation of my job being at risk. Then my job wasn't at risk, but I still got a bite for a new job from a startup founder who'd had some success. I went to that job for a while. Then I didn't like that after less than a year. I quit that and just started making, I quit on a Friday, phone calls start on Monday morning, dialing for, it was dialing for updates, but it was implicitly dialing for dollars to tell everybody I didn't work at that company anymore. And it was only about a week or so before somebody had said, here's your, well, we've been talking already about here's the stuff and how we would go into business together in the future. Here's your first $500 check for that. And then that sort of just one after another, the networking and the phone calls to update people on what I was up to continued. And eventually it landed with the same thing that you were describing, David. Hey, that CTO at this company just left. You used to work for him. I don't want you to replace him, but I need somebody to fill in while we find a replacement. And that's been it. So like 0 meaningful mass outreach, and I'm looking to have no more than 5 clients in a given year and make a healthy living off of 5. So I have quite a lot more recruiting new clients that I need to do to hit 5, considering I'm at 1 in 2025 right now. I had more last year, and then this company expanded what they needed from me for this year.
Cool. It's good. It's really good to think about, like, how many clients do I expect to have? Because if you think about building a marketing campaign, right? Understanding what your needs are. You don't need to build a marketing campaign that gives you 10,000 leads a month, right? You need a marketing campaign that gives you 1 or 2 leads a month so that you can convert, which it gives you that's 20, 40 a year or something like that, which to me even feels like way too many, because if I had half of those land, then I'm way busy. Now, that's a good problem to have. If you can have half of those convert, then you can really start to think about raising your rates. Well, at the end of the day, raising your prices, period. Because the more people want you, the more you can charge. And everybody here, I think, is in this to make money. And we're not mission driven here. So
Well, I am partially. I mean, it's good to have a mission, right?
if you're mission driven, that's fine, but it doesn't mean you should sell yourself short and give yourself away.
Yeah, of course.
If you need to pay bills. But
if you're lost on where to go next to look for clients, I had no meaningful technical background when I got involved in standards development, which is very collective and has a lot of forward-looking people. There's always somebody else. So, if you've tried the GitHub project thing and not been super happy with where it landed, go chase down the people that were writing MQTT, or chase down the somebody that's got a nascent standard with a brand name on it that's in your space that will always be looking for another person. There'll be this giant dollar gate that says you can't participate unless you pay us $20,000 a year. And you'll say, hey, so I don't have $20,000. How do I come to your meetings and talk about this project that you want to work on? And no one ever says no. you just don't get to hold the IP at the end. So that one of the ways that I unintentionally networked was through, I would say it was mission adjacent work. So collective action projects inside of technology and code.
Creative networking is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the rates, what are the market rates you see for fractional CTOs usually?
Everything. How much do you want to charge? Ask that. But also, don't think about rates. Think about prices.
Oh, what do you mean? You mean prices per project or prices for what?
Rates generally are tied to time. Don't sell your time.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you structure the pricing? Do you do it like fixed projects? Or?
Thanks, Russ. It depends. I mean, for myself, the things that I do, I almost always do retainers. So I am selling time, but it's not hours, it's not days, it's not weeks, right? It's access to me. They're buying time in my brain, they're buying availability, they're buying the ability to call me anytime that they need me, that type of thing. Lots of people still do this and bill hourly. I will never suggest it, but you're not wrong if you're doing it. But it does very much limit you, because as soon as somebody looks at, thanks, Travis. As soon as somebody looks at your rate chart, says, wait, we're paying you $600 an hour, we're paying you $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour. Most of my projects effectively work out around $600 to $2,000 an hour. If I were to,
wow.
but
how do you,
I'm undercharging.
Me too.
Yeah.
They never saw an hourly rate.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So how do you phrase it? I mean, you say, oh yeah, let's agree on a monthly retainer. You'll pay me X thousands of dollars. How do you? But they know how many hours you'll spend on it.
Not necessarily. Nope. I mean, so for development stuff, I just charge them like per sprint, so per week, and it's X amount. And I tell them, I'm like, that's roughly half time, and I don't tell them like, is that 16 hours, 20 hours, 25 hours? I never send them a timesheet.
Okay.
But for the fractional thing, you could be like, hey, I'll come into your weekly meetings, I'll come to these board meetings, and I'll answer calls, and here's the price. And if you need it, and you could, I would always put some limit, be like, hey, I can't spend all my time on you. So if we hit a certain limit, we might have to talk about paying me more, but like, or something like that. Like, I would always give yourself some kind of out. So if they like want to call you every single day for the entire month, you're like, hold on, this is not.
So the structures that I ended up putting together for my own advisory stuff was basically 2 to 3 meetings a week, right? 2 to 3 scheduled calls a week. This works because my clients were always in the middle of a fire show, right? The world is on fire somewhere. They are dealing with it. They are not at that stage ready. They're not looking for someone who will just come in once a month and talk to them and help them through a problem, right? They are actively on fire. So we need more engagement, right? So a couple of times a week, they have the opportunity for 2 to 3 scheduled calls a week. I usually try to tie that to a specific person. So that might be a team lead, it might be a development manager, it might be a head of HR, but whoever it is, they're the person who's responsible for setting those up and attending them. I am not open to the whole team scheduling calls with me. That, and then the next part of it is that I'm in their Slack. I onboard with their stuff. Now, again, DevOps, so I'm logging into their AWS. I'm seeing what they're doing. I'm looking at their bills. I'm not here to review your bill. I'm not here to understand, to give you specific advice, right? I'm not tying it to say, I'm helping you simplify your architecture to save you money. Those might be things we talk about. So I need to be able to have access to these things. Their CI/CD. I need to be able to get into their GitHub and look at their code. So I on board with their technology organization. We have 2 to 3 scheduled calls a week. I'm in their Slack. I'm paying attention. I'm not there. And then they have the availability to call me, email me, text me, Slack me with next business day response. So that is a response SLA. That is not an answer. That is not a solution SLA. and it usually comes with, as soon as I will respond as quickly as I can, but next business day at the, is the SLA. So this gives me some control. These are my constraints. Everything else I do by choice. I reach out to an engineer and set up a call, or I reach out to an engineer and spend 6 hours pairing with them to help solve a problem that I see. Right. I'm here to help them through this, but I don't always have to engage at the same level every week. So sometimes those 2 to 3 calls become 1 call a week or 1 call every 2 weeks. We're still in the same engagement. It's still $20,000 a month. But what's happening at the moment has changed. And then sometimes it ramps up and we're crazy for 2 weeks and I don't worry about it. And I also let them know, hey, this was a really busy week. And so like the next week we go down to 1 or none, right? And so I keep them informed. I keep my client contact informed. That's not always necessarily the person I'm working with. Like someone from HR might be my hero that brings me in, and they say, "Here, go work with our engineering manager," who is left without his CTO and does not have he's a people manager and not a technical manager, and he needs someone to help with the technical guidance, right? So I keep my hero, my actual client in scope and understanding of that. And then it's really about this availability and access to me, and that's what they're paying that amount for. And when that turns into like they just bought another company and that other team is not going to be integrated, so they're not like, it's a completely different team. They're like, we really want you to work with this team. I'm like, great, that's another $20,000 a month. And now the first project is back down to I'm talking to them once a week, and now I'm talking to this other team twice a week, and it's $40,000 a month, and I'm spending 2 to 3 hours at this, and maybe I've got another hour of my own time on it, and I check Slack, but I'm checking Slack all the time. I don't count checking Slack because I'm not billing hourly. I used to fucking charge a client hourly for checking Slack because they wanted me available, and I was hourly. And they wanted me to respond in Slack. And I'm like, okay, I am looking at Slack this hour, and I responded to somebody. That's an hour.
That's just a bad customer relationship. What customer wants to get that too? Like, I hired a buddy of mine to do some development work for me, and he handed me this timesheet that was down to like 5-minute intervals, and I didn't even look at it. I was just like,
I charge minimum hour. I'm
like, if I didn't trust you, I wouldn't hire you. So stop sending me this crap. I don't care. Just tell me how much I owe you.
They made me bucket my hours into different things, and so that one I put into support. That is team support. I spent 5 minutes talking to somebody that consumes an hour. I'll spend it. I'll focus that hour. But if I only had 5 minutes of answers to give, then okay, right?
Yeah. No.
Stand-ups were 15 minutes. That was an hour.
Yep.
But that's the disincentive of time-based billing, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious how you convince the. I mean, what's your sales process? How do you? Maybe a different question. How many customers like that have you had in your career? I mean, not at the same time, but in total. Yeah.
4.
So it's like a repetitive process.
But actually, that's 4 over realistic. That's 4 over 4 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And is it? Yeah. And with typically those intended to run between 6 and 18 months apiece, right? And but I've never. It does require the right type of client, but I'm very clear that I'm not here to implement. I'm not here to put hands on. I will put hands on either for research or because it's a fire and it's an emergency. This is the insurance policy, right? I'm not shipping your production code, but if it's down and it's broken and your people aren't responding, I will help you through that. And then whatever that means, sometimes that's going to mean jumping in and putting hands on keyboard, but I'm not shipping features for you. I'm not in your sprints. Right. And so it's very clear that this is advisory. I'm here to help you through this problem. We structure it like this. And, but my ideal client for this is looking for someone to help them not do it. That make sense?
Well, I think part of your question is how do you convince them to get away from the hourly? And I think, yeah, part of it is what David said is just very clear communication and expectations, but then a lot of it is just selling the value, right? Like, and you don't care how many hours I work. You want a specific result, and that result is worth something to you. Let's put a price on that. And even regardless of what hours I work.
Even if you're not trying, so that's me, that's my own advisory stuff, right? So what Sam said is very valuable here, that how do I avoid selling the hour? Well, I never give them the option to buy an hour. By simply saying, this is how I package my work. So this is the packaging part, right? So there's a packaging. I broke this out in an article, and it's the first time I've ever, I did a bunch of digging, and nobody talks about these three pieces separately. They always lump it together. How you price it, how you package it, and how you structure your fee, right? So I ended up just generically calling it structure, but it's kind of like your fee structure, right? What I package are those things, right? We talked about, like, this is my advisory package. Now, I've got sliding scales on that. It might be one meeting a month. It might be no Slack access at all, right? You call me, we talk, right? I'm not in context. That's part of the selling pitch of my proposal, is that when you step up to this tier where I'm in your Slack, I have context for every conversation. You don't spend time ramping me up. I already know what's going on. I mean, not all the time, but I'm already in context. You're keeping that context in my brain, which is why this costs 4 times what a smaller package might, that doesn't keep you in context, right? But how you sell it is literally by not giving them the option. Packaged together. I know people that offer unlimited development work for multiple clients concurrently for between $5,000 and $20,000 a month. Right. And this is hands-on implementation, feature work, right?
Okay, yeah.
But it's like what Sam said here. He's doing it on a sprint basis, right? It's similar to that. So there's just a backlog. And he's not saying, I'm going to work for you 40 hours a week. He's saying, I'm going to work on writing your code. I'll probably put about half a week into that, half time into that, so you have an idea. Right. The project I had last year, which was a Hail Mary project, and it was a DevOps backfill, but I said it's half time and it's this much per month. I never tracked an hour. No one ever asked me to track an hour because I was upfront and said, I do not track hours. If you're unhappy, let's have a conversation. And I did Mondays and Wednesdays and a little bit on Friday because we had some call on Friday. So I would do that call on Friday, and then, and I was Mondays and Wednesdays, but I would check Slack. If something was going on, I was available, but it was part of my retainer. Mm-hmm. So by having some flexibility around it allows you to have flexibility around it too. And figuring out how to schedule it and work with your own schedules and all of that is sometimes challenging.
What I will say is key is have that laid out ahead of time before you even go into the first meeting and lay it down. Like, I'm always like, don't ever negotiate to their contract or anything. You have your contract, you have it set up and it's ready to go, and you just plop it on the table. You're like, here's how I do it. And that ends a lot of those discussions. It doesn't always make it go away because some people really hold on to that. But yeah,
those don't have to be your clients, though.
Exactly.
I've certainly.
So how did you find the clients for whom you can extinguish the fires and be on this kind of retainer? I mean, you need to identify the clients somehow.
For me, it's been luck, right? I'll be pure honest. Finding clients was always luck. Every time I look back at what worked, sometimes it was networking, sometimes it was shipping resumes, sometimes it was posting something on LinkedIn. One thing I found myself is that my network was not set up to deliver work to me, right? All of unless I wanted to be a DevOps engineer, right? If I wanted to be a DevOps engineer, my network could deliver work to me, right? And that meant full-time jobs or full-time contracts. But that wasn't what I was looking for but everyone I worked with through my career saw me as a sysadmin, as a DevOps engineer.
Yeah.
And so I had to build a new network. I've spent the last 6 years in outreach, talking to people, right? Pivoting, focusing on selling to CTOs. By the way, CTOs don't buy.
Oh, really?
CTOs do not buy people to help them solve technical problems because they think they already have a team to solve the technical problems. This is my opinion from experience, okay? It's not necessarily a truism and a fact, but it's my opinion. So building a network of CTOs did not help me. What I needed to build, I'm not sure. For what I was trying to sell, I'm not sure. I never found good fit, right? I never found the path. But part of this is because I was not willing to produce content. And I quite honestly could never quite get that to not be, I am the boil your ocean, work for anybody, be your DevOps engineer answer. I can talk about it, what it looks like as a package, as an advisory, and what my actual clients looked like, but trying to present it with a laser focused positioning statement and all of these things, I found very difficult. And partly, I think, now that I look at it from the other lens, in the rearview mirror, it's because I hated my job.
I hated the full-time job.
I hated where my job had gotten to, where my industry had gotten to. Most of my positioning ended up being, I'm not going to write your Terraform and I'm not fucking touching your Kubernetes. Right? And
I totally feel you. You know, I hate coding for too long. I like coding when I need to tackle a difficult issue that nobody else can do. But actually coding regular, I know, REST endpoint or queries, SQL queries. No, I don't want it.
Right.
I mean, it's been 15 years and it's too much. So do you have what size of companies do you think are the best for this kind of CTO?
It's really about you. I mean, I've talked to people who work for 10,000 person teams and 1 person teams. There is a space in all of them. There's a space inside a Fortune 5 company, just as well as there is a 5-person startup. It's a different space. The role is different. Maybe the title internally is different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a real position of shadow CTO.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow CTO or shadow VPE. So inside a larger organization, they might hire you as a consultant to work directly with the person that they put in that seat, because the reason they have them in that seat is for other business purposes.
Okay.
Right? And so you can help them, not necessarily as a coach or an advisor, but even doing the role in their name. I have talked to people that have made significant amounts of money doing that, right? We're talking 6 figures a month doing that.
What kind of job was that?
He never disclosed the industry, although I have suspicions around the industry, but the way he got to $100,000 a month, by the way, was he had managed to build enough trust in a specific market segment, that people kept coming to him, and he said, I don't want to do this anymore. So he started doubling his price until people started saying no. So he went from 5,000 to 10,000 to 20,000 to 40,000 to like 60, 80, and finally he's like $100,000. And people kept saying yes. And he's like, you know what? I like it at $100,000 a month to have 2 clients at $200,000 a month. I'm good with that. It turns out a certain amount of money can make you like your job again. Yeah. But it is not easy to build a pipeline of people coming to you demanding that, right? but he was very specific and nichey. He never shared his niche. I know I have some clue what his niche is, and it's big finance. But he had a specific background that meant he could speak to those people very specifically about their industry and their problems.
Yep.
So he could come in and talk to them in their language in a way that no one else could.
Well, and he also understood what problems they had that were worth that much.
Yes.
Because if you're going to charge that much, you better be delivering a lot of value.
Right. And you know, it's funny. That sounds like a lot of money. Fully 50% of my customers have had $100,000 a month AWS bills.
Yeah.
That's I mean, like, and then you look at, okay, we're spending $1, $2, $5 million a month on engineers.
Well, I mean, I look at the stuff that I do, right? Product testing, right? The EU passes some new law that says that you have to pass this test to sell your product in the EU. And it's $100 million market for you. How much you going to pay for a testing machine to get that done? Couple $1 billion? Easy.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just a matter of finding the right problem.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes. Actually, it's a great talk. I think it's great, David, that you started these coffees. I'm very happy that I joined. That I either I found your website or I found your profile or you found me and invited. But anyways, I landed on your website, so it's great. I'll be very happy to stay in touch, and we're connected on LinkedIn, and I think I'll swing by your coffee in the future and see how it goes.
I appreciate it. It is intentionally informal, so we'll see what it becomes. But like the one that I do on Thursdays, or the group that I work with on Thursdays, has a very structured format, right? And I was trying to find something that's less structured, depending on how many people we get, though. If we get like,
do you mean the Rand's coffee that you mentioned on your website?
Because it's a lean coffee format. So there's a board, you put topics in it, topics get voted on. We spend 8 minutes on each topic, work through those, that type of thing. So it's the organization driven talking about things, which means that like it's structured. And I don't know, I don't like structure. I don't mind it all the time, but so we'll see how this works out.
Oh, that's great. Thank you all, David. Thank you, Sam. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lucas.
Bye.